We've done this 4 times, guys.
Welcome back. Season 4, 2.0. I'm like, let me recap what we just cut.
You didn't say we're live.
I was getting there.
Oh, fuck.
Take 5. Hey, guys. Welcome back. Season 4, 2.0. I'll recap for you real quick what was all cut before because we forgot to do the clappy claps for our sound. We changed the set. Woo! It was Jessica's fault. Woo!
Okay.
And that's pretty much it.
That was all we did. We talked about it for like 5 minutes. You're welcome for cutting it out.
Yeah. So we're gonna roll the intro. Let's talk about Hitler.
That'll make sense later.
I'm immaculately conceived.
I don't know what to do.
I swear I'm not stupid.
Take it or leave it. Sometimes you just want to leave it.
If I gotta borrow my mom's underwear, I'm borrowing her underwear.
You just, yeah.
Misa likes the Jar Jar Binks.
I'm not gonna edit it out.
Oh no.
I don't know. Like I think I was pretty great. Just staying on the
to
planet.
suck.
Why are you saying it with a question mark?
Clap, bitch.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Action.
And we're live. I'm Anna.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is Why Are You Yelling?
Damn, this is really hard. You know, this is why you do it every week or every 2 weeks.
To get into the
holy shit, because like
rhythm.
You get used to talking to people that aren't here. Mm-hmm. And once you don't do that for a while, you're like, who the fuck am I talking to? Like, nope. To what? The iPad? Like, it's
no, to the people.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
When you don't do it, you're like, huh?
Is there anybody on the other side of this?
Like,
thing?
hello? We just look like schizophrenics or something. Hey guys, is that the right word?
Schizophrenics?
Did I said it right? Did I say it right?
No, I wasn't gonna say it, but you
call,
might have seen the look on my face.
What would you call people like that?
Well,
multiple
you
people.
said. I think you pronounced it weird.
I didn't say schizophrenics. Is that not right?
I think you said that is correct, but the first time I think you said it weird.
Okay, well that's what I meant.
I may have misheard.
Both are possible.
Yes,
but so it is. What is the date?
Don't tell them.
No, because listen, we had like 4 fucking episodes that I edited, I put my blood, sweat, and tears into, and they never went up. Just so you know that. Granted, it took me a while to edit them, so there's also that. I
think that my plan is to just release them randomly at some point and be like, here you go, just to put them out so you guys can see it, because some of the conversations might not be timely. No. I don't remember what we talked about. So, yeah, there's that.
Could have even changed my opinion since then. I'm not sure.
Maybe. We're not the same people we were when we recorded
Definitely
those episodes.
Not. We've only filmed, like, I feel like, what, 5 or 6 times? Maybe more this whole year.
That we haven't put out, or just this year?
Just this year.
Yeah.
Like, not a lot. We basically got into Formula 1 and pieced the fuck out. That's pretty much what happened, because we didn't know how to balance our likes. Yeah, and our hobbies.
Too many hobbies, too little time.
No, we didn't know what to do with ourselves.
But listen, today is Sunday, December 8th. The Formula 1 season officially ended this morning.
I don't know. I'm like, what the fuck do I do for a few months?
You go back and rewatch a different season of Formula 1. You do the reruns. Have you seen people make the joke of like when they're getting into like football, they're like, okay, guys, I want to start with season 1 of football. Where do I start?
Exactly.
And it's like, season 1 of Formula 1?
I'm going to pick 2016, I think. Just because I want to see Nico and Lewis go at it.
I feel like that's a really good one.
I feel like that's going to be a good one. So I think that's what I'll watch.
I was following along with this season in 2021, but I wasn't watching the races and stuff. Yeah. So, and that's when Max and Lewis were really battling it out. Yeah. And there was the Abu Dhabi fiasco, so I feel like that's gonna be my thing. I think I'm gonna.
I don't think I can watch that one. Like,
you just be upset.
Because like I love Max now. Did not love him then.
He was a menace.
Did not love him.
Still
then.
is, but
oh god, listen, that's the drama. If you know, you know. It's nuts. But yeah, so we got done watching the race this morning. It was very emotional. I haven't been emotional or even remotely close to it, but like leading up to it, but then seeing, because there's several drivers, for those who don't know, there are several drivers who are ending they're basically not driving for the same team after this season. And some of them were very emotional endings to those journeys together. One of them,
biggest one being Lewis Hamilton. This was his last race with Mercedes. He's been with them for over a decade. Has won 7 world championships.
He won 6 with them. His first title was with McLaren.
Okay.
Yeah.
6 with them. My apologies.
You looked at me, so then I was like, I got you.
You're good. So he had a very successful run with them. The last season, 2 seasons have been kind of rough for him with Mercedes.
Even though the car last season was ass, and he still managed to get 3rd.
So, but this basically, it was announced at the very beginning of this season that he was going to be moving to Ferrari for the 2025 season.
Yeah.
And so all season it's been like, this is the last hurrah with Mercedes. And it ended on a pretty good note.
Thank fucking God. Because I was like, if this ends, like I didn't know what to think because qualifying was so bad and it wasn't even his fault. And he was like the faster of the 2 Mercedes cars. But then he had an issue in qualifying where Kevin Magnussen was trying to get out of his way. And then that little pole got lodged under his car during his fast lap. It totally messed him up. So it was just, we really didn't know how this was going to go. And so it just couldn't have went any better. But it was funny because I had told Anna, I don't know, maybe a week, well, obviously before the race at some point, I was like, well, are you ready for this emotional thing? And she says, you were like, I mean, is it going to be emotional though? And I was like, yes. And you're like, I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking of it as any other race. And then I get a fucking selfie from her where she's like crying. And I'm like, that's it. That's right.
Listen, I'm a cry baby.
When you said that, I was like, we're not watching this race together because if you don't cry and you don't match my sad energy, it's going to piss me off. If you're like, could you imagine something is so emotional going on that someone's just casual, like, meh, whatever. I'd be like, so it was super funny when you were like, I'm crying.
I wasn't prepared to be like emotional. No. And then you see Lewis, like, he does. I kind of expected it after the race was over, he was going to do his little donuts.
I didn't even think about that. So when he did that, I was like,
oh, because that's like a kind of a well-known thing that drivers do at the last race, especially if it's the last race of the season, or if it's like if they're retiring, like they did that when Sebastian Vettel retired 2 years ago.
Even when I think Alonso retired the first time.
He came back. Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
he came back. I kind of anticipated. I didn't know he was going to be the only one to do them.
Well, I just think he just made the decision. I don't think anybody else
was planning on it.
I think he just did. Plus, he had a special spot as well, which would have been. I was like, what if he was on the podium? Like, I guess that spot's just empty.
Yeah. They just don't put it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when he did the donuts and then the radio message when he was talking to Bono, who's his engineer over the radio, and them, being like, it was, my honor and my pleasure to work with you, and their partnership is coming to an end. And so it's like, that's the origin of Hammer Time.
I know.
Like, that's
now
just
we have
done.
to say it as we have to do it now. We as the audience have to do it. Like, his new engineer can't do it, or it's weird.
Gonna say, I wonder if he's gonna bring that to his new engineer at Ferrari and be like, that's our code word, or if they have to come up with a new code word.
God.
Because for those who don't know, Hammer Time, like basically Lewis and his engineer Bono, like when it would get to a point in the race where Bono needed Lewis to really push the car hard and really race hard and give it everything flat out, Bono was like taking too many words to say that. And when you're a driver in your car driving that fast, and it's a high stress, high pressure, high heat environment. A lot of times it's very hot in that car.
Yeah.
And it's like, you do not need these long ass messages. And so Lewis is like, Bono, we need to Hammer Time. When you want me to put pedal to the metal and just flat out go, say that and I'll know what you mean. Like, that's our code word, and that's the origin of Hammer Time. And I love that, but I don't think I've ever heard it on the...
I heard it during Silverstone.
Was it?
And then I heard Get in there, Lou. Get in there, Lou.
Get in there, Lewis.
I can't deal with it. No, I teared up just multiple times because everybody kept talking about how emotional it was.
But at the driver's press conference at the start of the weekend, someone asked Lewis that, and then they were like, "Are you emotional? Like, what's going on?" He's like, "Nah, I'm just chilling." He's like, "I'm trying to be," and I think he was trying to be as present as possible, because if you start looking too far back and then you get really sad, and then you start looking too far forward and you get really sad.
But he said that. I think he said his biggest thing was trying to be as present as possible in the moment.
And just absorb everything. And I'm like, and so he was like, I wasn't really like super emotional. But you could tell at the end.
So the moment that it just, I just started to cry was towards the end of the race. There was like, I think it was, I don't know. I think it was maybe around lap 40. Lewis is, at this point, he's 5th. And he's surprisingly, the car's been doing well. He's the only car that started off on hards. He maintained the tires well. And the strategy just surprisingly worked out in his favor. And at one point, so he's 5th, and then he goes on the radio to how far ahead, and the car ahead of him was George Russell, his teammate. Mm-hmm. Like, how far ahead, or what's the gap? And Bono's like, oh, it's 14 seconds. And Lewis, you can kind of hear him. He's like a little
14 seconds.
Yeah, he's like a little dejected, like 14 seconds.
Like that's a lot.
Like, fuck. And then I just started to cry because all of a sudden you just hear Toto go, you can do that, Lewis. Like, it was just said in this like
you got this.
If anybody can do it, you can do it. Mm-hmm. And damn,
fuck if he didn't.
If he didn't oh my God. I was like, oh my God. Because
you could tell Lewis was going for it. Toto knew he was going to go for it. And then, when Lewis is getting close to George, was it Toto that came on the radio and said, George, stating the obvious, but keep it clean. And George is like, well, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
for sure. And I think, I'm not saying George wasn't fighting Lewis, but I don't know that he fought him the same way he would have.
I don't think he defended against him. So it's like, if you pass me, you pass me. But I'm not gonna I'm not gonna slow down for you, but I'm not gonna defend against you.
Yeah,
but
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, which Lewis was. His pace was better. So it's kind of like it is what it is. But then
it's one of those because they weren't fighting for a podium. Yeah, I think George was a little more chillaxed about it. Yeah. Chillaxed? Do you say chillax?
I don't know. Maybe.
You say cool beans.
Sometimes. Why would you even expose me like that?
I don't know. You said it yesterday and I was like, girl, you can cut that. That was a random aside. I'm sorry.
Oh my God. She just attacked me for no reason. I'm not emotional anymore.
That's when you cut the cameras. Do you know that? Yes, you know what that's a reference to. I'm not going to insult you by saying, do you know what that's a reference from? Do you know what that's from? I'm going to insult you.
Go ahead.
Do you know what that's
from? Go ahead
and
and tell me what it's from.
It's from Black China. When she had her reality show and she was like, cut the cameras.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Back to...
I'm sorry. You can cut that whole chunk out.
Oh, no. Exposed. She's an evil lady. Oh, but what was it? Then they... Lewis getting out of... The whole thing there was just emotional. At that point, it was emotional. It was sad because you could tell the Ferrari boys were kind of disappointed. But then, I'm disappointed for them. But then I'm super excited for Lando and McLaren because, Lando killed it. They deserved it. 24 years or basically 25 years without having...
he had pretty much a flawless weekend.
He just did a good job.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the last time that McLaren won a world championship, the drivers, the constructors, I think the meds and the coffee have kicked in at the same time.
Overtime. Camera time.
I put an extra shot of espresso in here.
Psychopath.
Literally, my caffeine tolerance, I think, has gone up.
Mine has too. I drink a lot. The whole day, I have a Red Bull in the morning. Then I have coffee when I get home. It's nuts.
Yeah.
My caffeine consumption or daily intake is not healthy, probably.
Yeah, I agree. Mine is also. Anywho,
but
sorry, that was another tangent. What was I saying?
I don't remember.
But the last time that McLaren won a constructors world title, the championship, was before their two current drivers, Oscar and Lando, before they were alive. It was
1998, yeah.
They weren't even born yet.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's been, I think they said 26 years.
I know it's 1998, but I feel like I keep hearing.
I can't do that math off the top of my head.
But I thought they said 24. Because I heard no, Nico, I thought Nico, because I thought I heard 25. Then Nico Rosberg was talking.
If it was 1998 and it's 2024 now, 24 plus 2 years is 26.
Yeah.
So 26 years.
So if it was 1998, it's been, here's the point, it's been over 20 years. It's been a minute that they haven't gotten it.
But.
And because Ferrari was I think it was 1998 and then 2008, because wasn't it a 10-year difference or something? Because wasn't
between when McLaren and Ferrari?
Yeah, wasn't it because it wasn't the last constructors championship 2008
for Ferrari?
For Ferrari,
I think that's right.
Because then it was 19. Because I think it was basically like a 10-year difference between the two or something like that.
So one's been like 15 years. And the other's 26, 15. I don't. It's too much math. I don't think anybody cares.
I don't think this is right. That's not the point. Here's the point. The point is that Lando Norris killed it. Yeah. Good for him and McLaren.
Did you see his new haircut?
I did. I saw it.
Thoughts? I can tell by your face the thoughts you have.
Well, because then it just makes me sound like a girl criticizing a driver's looks, but at the same time, not criticizing, because I think Lando's he's a cutie, but I'm 30 and he's like 23, so I feel like I'm not allowed to call him anything other than a cutie. I feel like a predator. I feel like
you're like
I'm not a predator. I'm not a predator. He looks. I think maybe he just looks younger to me now. I feel like he looks younger, and he was like not looking like, to me, he kind of looked like maybe 25, 26 for a while. And now I'm like, oh, you're a baby. Yeah. I feel like the haircut, it just made him look younger.
He basically did like a shaved down sides, but like under the ears.
I feel like his baby face is more apparent now than it was before.
Because it took some of the hair away from back there.
So it's not that he's ugly by any means. I think he's very handsome, but he just looks
more. It's giving a little like, the mullets that young baseball players do. Like it's but it's not like a full mullet.
I don't hate some mullets.
It's like a baby mullet. It's a little bit longer in the back, a little messy, but there's still stuff going on up here. Yeah. And you just get like the shaved down sides, but he had like the taper fade, like still here by the temples.
I noticed something was different.
It looked good in terms of execution, but it was like skin, like shaved down to the skin right behind the ears. And I was like,
you know what else I didn't love? What? Max shaved.
Oh, he didn't leave his little stubble.
I didn't love that. I wasn't a fan. I like the little stubble. Because, he literally just all of a sudden is a teenager again. And I'm like, he's going to... And you know what? Then he crashed Oscar. Just like I'm kidding.
Okay, so...
Wrecking everybody.
I just want to finish up talking about the emotional part. And then we can talk about my reactions to what happened in the race. So, the Lewis in the...
It was so much.
Doing the donuts, the radio message to Bono was super emotional. And then what really got I was a little bit tearing up. Yeah. What made it start falling down my face was when he just was like, you see him sitting in the car, parked up.
I started crying.
Yeah, and then you can see like he had his visor lifted a little, and you can see his face is wet with sweat. But I'm like, that's not all sweat.
Well, no. At one point when he was driving, he was doing that, and then he had one hand doing this, and I was like,
oh my god. He's like, no. I'm like, wait, no, you can't cry. You have to see where you're going. But yeah, just you can kind of see in the little bit of his eyes that you could see that he was emotional, and then him just kind of giving himself a minute to just sit there and kind of breathe and take it all in. I was like, like the whole everything just kind of.
It was. Yeah. So the reaction when Toto was over the radio and he's like, you can do it. Because it just felt like this.
It was like a movie.
It was like, I believe in you. You've got this. If anybody can do it, you can do it. And then damn if he didn't. But then.
They have such a good relationship, I feel like, Toto and Lewis.
They do. No, they do. And it's like. The other thing that got me, so like you said, he's sitting in the car. At this point, I'm crying because I'm like, this is crazy. And then he gets out of the car, and then anytime a driver does it, anytime they get out of their car and they kneel next to their car and they're like, it's like in How to Train Your, it's like that's their dragon. Like this is their pet. This is their it's like that car is alive. It's more than just a car. And then they're next to it.
Like you do, it's like your steed. It's like you do battle with that thing.
And I'm like, anytime a driver does that, I'm like,
they like squat down next to it, and they kind of like. They like pat it, like you, like good girl, like at a girl or whatever, like on literally. The side, and then they like they bow their head.
Well,
on
you've seen
that
picture of Sebastian Vettel when he bows down to his. That's like an iconic picture because that car was nuts. So it's like anytime I see a driver do that to their car, I'm like, it just makes me remember that, like you said, that's basically like you said, like that they're doing battle. That's like their steed, like this. It's.
Well, it's because it's such an odd thing.
And especially that car, because he had such a complicated relationship with that car this whole season. And then it fucking like, it worked with him this weekend and it gave him something to be proud of on his way out. And then it's like, fuck, like.
It's weird in general, like from the outside looking in, to think about a person having any sort of relationship or feeling toward a non-sentient being, like a machine, right? So it's like, you could say, oh, it's the equivalent of like feeling like you have some sort of relationship with like a laptop or a cell phone, but it's not. It's different. And if you've never had this, like, it's like this thing, again, it's like your steed. It's your thing you go into battle with, but and you can have a relationship with it.
Like, I'm saying, like when you were in band, I'm sure you had a relationship with your instrument. What did you play?
A trumpet.
So I'm like, that thing is like, it's still a tool. Like, this thing that like you perform with becomes this like, this thing. I mean, because you need it. It's around. It makes you like, it ignites emotions in you to do it. Like you have to learn it. It's like this thing that without it, you can't perform what you're trying to do. So it's like this, it becomes an entity in itself. And so it's like, and if you never had that, then I mean,
and it applies to all sorts of...
a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Even your car, your car you drive every day. If you like your car, it gets you from A to B. I mean, like your car has been a family car for 400 years. So it's kind of like...
my personal daily driver car, which is hella old. It's a 2003. So that car is over 20 years old, but that was the first car that my mom bought. She bought it when her and my dad were still married. It's the first car that I believe they bought outright, brand new. Right. And when they bought that car like moved us into a new home when we still lived in Louisiana, just outside New Orleans.
Yeah.
It got us through Hurricane Katrina, which is one of the most devastating natural disasters in the history of ever. And it got us through there. It moved us to Georgia. It taught me how to drive. It taught my brother how to drive. It brought my sister home from the hospital when she was born, when I was in high school. Like, it moved me into college and moved my brother into college. Like, that car was used, like, when my brother and his wife got married. Like, that car has seen the last 23, it's been a part of my family and in my family for the last 23 years. It holds a lot of memories and a lot of emotions are like tied and connected to that machine.
100%.
And so it's not like, so I can understand, and if you've never had something like that, it may be hard to grasp it.
Yeah.
But it's like it's not that it's almost like you think of it as a thing.
I've carried around an action figure since I was 6. All right. Like, I mean, and I think of it the same way, where it's like, it's seen the worst, the best, the everything. Like,
it's like a manifestation of all of your, like, your life and like your emotions and everything that was, when it was present with you, when you were experiencing and feeling all these things, it's almost like it absorbs that.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, even for me, like with that action figure, I mean, I know it sounds really lame. And I'm not trying to obviously, like, I mean, it's the same principle where it's like, I think of it like this, where, so the house I grew up in across from my grandma's, it's gone. Like, you went there with me. So like that across the street from my grandma's is a gigatonic, like, neighborhood now. And so, but back in the day, it was like this little tiny house that me, my mom, and my dad had together. And I've had this action figure since that time, and it's gone. Like, the place that would have held those memories is gone. So the only thing that experienced what I experienced now, besides my mom, because my dad's passed away, is that little figure that I have. Like, it's the only thing that I can look at, and it was once in that house with me. It once experienced these things with me, because it's just like, it holds on to it experiences what you experienced, or it can bring you back to a time when nothing else can, when the other physical stuff doesn't exist anymore. So it's like the same thing with your car, with anything. It's like, it can take you back to whatever. I mean, not to mention, do you know how many times I've cried in my car alone? My car knows.
Oh my God.
Like, a car is such a private place, and it can be like, it's heard me sing, it's heard me cry, it's heard me scream, it's heard me laugh, it's heard me. The car, and if you think about it like that, like, it is like kind of, it's like this little friend that it takes you places. You gotta feed it.
Yep.
Gotta take care of it.
Gotta take it to the doctor.
Like, it's this,
when it gets sick.
Yes.
It's like a pet, kind of.
In a way, I'm cold.
Yeah.
The last thing that made me super emotional, me, and then I'll let you finish and try not to cut you off.
Okay.
Try is the key word. So I might even tear up saying it, because it's just like,
oh God, and she's not a crier.
I don't cry. The last time I cried in front of her, cried was at the Taylor Swift concert. It was during Marjorie.
You can go watch the Taylor Swift episode. We talked all about it. We reviewed the concert and talked about the whole crying thing. So go watch that episode.
Because I don't cry. But I cry. I actually cry a lot, but I don't cry in front of people a lot.
Yeah, I can count on literally one hand the number of times I've seen you even tear up.
Yeah, like, and probably one of those is the picture I sent you. Which even then, by then it had recessed some.
I was literally like, you can see the tears on my face, and because I sent her a photo of just me, just like. after the race, and she sent one back, and I'm like, her eyes are a little watery.
I think that it must be like in my DNA. Like some people cry, and when they're done, their body's like, nah, you were crying. Like people are gonna know you were crying. Me, I am like, I will cry. The second I'm done, my eyes don't stay red. I'm like, shoot, done. It's like you would never know I cried. So maybe it's a defense mechanism in my DNA.
Yeah, because you can tell I've cried a while after, because like my eyes stay kind of red and watery.
See, mine don't.
My face is a little red still, but I also turn red super easy. You can't tell now because my makeup is hella good, but if I ever get embarrassed or if I get overheated, you can tell by my ears. They give me away because they turn bright red. I'm talking like a concerning shade of bright red.
That red.
Literally.
But yeah,
you never cry.
No, I don't cry. So this made me cry. I don't cry in front of people. I cry a lot, actually, but it's not in front of anybody. So
crying is private time.
I cry a normal amount, probably. I probably don't cry as much as, I don't know. I have random moments, though, that hit me. But so this, Toto's like, that was the drive of a champion. Like, that was just the drive of a champion. And then I swear this is like, it just, because it feels bittersweet when he's like, how does he say it? He goes, you deserve to, like, if we can't win, you should win. And I was like,
yeah, Toto said that to Lewis.
Oh my God, because it's just like, fuck, like.
Because they have such a good relationship and they have accomplished so much together. And you know that, like, and we've talked before about how Formula One now and how, like, there's a lot of camaraderie, not just among the drivers, but the teams too. It didn't used to be like this. It used to be much more like cutthroat.
Everybody was Red Bull.
Yeah. And I mean, but you can tell just even how much respect they have, like Toto still has for Lewis and like him with the whole team. Like I don't think there's any bad feeling about the end of their relationship.
Well, no. And I think the other part, because there's two parts to it, because there's the one part of like, oh, Lewis left Mercedes because Mercedes has been doing so bad, basically. So the narrative is like Mercedes hasn't been killing it. And so he's over it and wants to make sure before he loses what he has left in his career.
The time
he has left in here. But I also think the other part that people ignore is Mercedes didn't want they didn't want to continue a long-term relationship with him.
No.
And they've publicly kind of said that.
Yeah.
And that was really what led to Lewis's decision. It was probably done earlier than they would have liked. But I think that's what really led him to Ferrari to begin. I think if Mercedes would have given him what he wanted, he would have stayed.
No matter how bad the car was.
I think he would have stayed. And so
as far as we're aware, what he wanted was a longer term. He didn't want to just keep doing 1-year contracts.
Well, that was the other thing. He normally got 2 year. And now it was going to be 1 year with the option of a renewal, which is different.
Yeah. And it's what they call it, 1+1.
Yeah. And so that was the first indicator. He was like, wait a minute.
I think he wanted a longer term contract. He wanted an ambassadorship. So he wanted to be an ambassador. Was it for Mercedes?
Yes. And
like as a whole, even after he stopped driving for them.
It was basically but that's what he was going to do after he was driving.
And they wouldn't give him the ambassadorship.
That's a whole other
crazy.
Thing. Nuts.
Because I mean, we'll get into
there
that.
was more money. There was multiple, when I was reading, there was some organizations I think Lewis is a part of that maybe he wanted to bring into Mercedes, or he wanted to like do more with. And Mercedes just didn't want to do it. They didn't want to spend the money on it. And then Ferrari said, move the fuck over. I'll spend the money. Yeah. And they've already spent so much money in investing into Lewis that I'm like, good.
Well, even like the Ferrari stock, as soon as the announcement was made that Lewis was going to be moving to Ferrari starting in 2025, Ferrari's stock went up and their valuation as a company went up by like $1 billion, billion with a B.
Yeah.
Like crazy amount of money, right? Because that's how much weight his name, his image, his likeness, him as a person, like that's how much weight it pulls in the world of all of this. Like
that's what, when I was talking to Travis just about like Lewis and who he is, like to everybody. I'm like, it's really easy to get sucked in online, and I'm guilty of it, where you see people just say mean things about him, or they're just like, but I just mean like pure haters type shit. It's not even like criticism. Like not even like criticism. I'm like, okay, yeah, I could agree with that. It's always like hater shit. And I'm like, God damn, look at all these people. But then Lewis gets out of the car and the crowd screams for him. He walks up to talk in any interview. The crowd screams for him. And I'm like, no, he's adored by the majority of people. Mm-hmm. And there's just something about him that
it's like it's the same as anything online. I think it's the loud minority.
Yeah.
That are screaming all these awful things online that majority of people just
and most people, and I feel like it's probably one or two people that are real. And then most of the other comments are just bots. Mm-hmm. That just, it's all about rage bait. It's all about engagement. So I'm just like, but I don't know. I was super emotional. I mean, even though he's not going anywhere in the sense, I mean, he's still going to be on the grid. It just is like the end of an era. And I'm like, God, imagine being somebody who's followed his career the whole time. I would have never even been able to get through it because it's like, that's just a lot. Because you just feel like, even though you don't, I mean, parasocial relationships, they are what they are. But like when you just follow like a team of anybody, you just are like, this is my team. I'm a part of, you feel like you're a part of their journey. And then you're like, oh, now my journey's ended as well with this. Because it's like, let's just be for real. A lot of people are not going to be Ferrari fans.
Even more than there were. Because even when you're not a Ferrari fan, you're still a Ferrari fan.
He said it best. Everybody's a Ferrari fan.
Yeah.
Even the guys over at Mercedes, they're Ferrari fans.
Yeah. The other thing that I was going to say that Toto has outright said that part of the reason they came to end their relationship with Lewis as him driving for Mercedes was that they had another driver in the pipeline, Kimi Antonelli, who is now signed with Mercedes and going to be driving for them in 2025, replacing Lewis.
Yeah.
Toto outright said, I think that's part of the reason they were offering shorter term contracts with Lewis, because they wanted basically at any point the option to bring in Kimi Antonelli to replace Lewis. And they didn't, and Toto said they didn't want to miss out on another young talent, because Toto said one of the biggest regrets he has working with Mercedes is that when it was time to bring up Max Verstappen to Formula One, that Mercedes didn't have a seat for him and that they missed out. And whether there's any truth to whether Max was ever contemplating going to Mercedes.
Yeah, I'm like, wasn't he always a part of Red Bull?
He came up, I believe, in the Red Bull
Academy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was part of the Red Bull family. But I mean, again, who knows how much validity there is to if Max was realistically even going to consider Mercedes if there was an option available. But I mean, you have to take Toto at his word. One of his biggest regrets, he has said, is that they didn't have a seat for Max when he was coming into Formula One and they missed out on Max. And so he said he didn't want to make the same mistake again with Kimi Antonelli.
It's just a weird statement, though, because it's like Max joined in around what time? Like 2016, 17 or something around. I mean, whenever he joined, I'm like, at that point, I mean, Max was already racing when Lewis won a shit ton of his titles. So it's like, what are you regretting? You would have gotten world titles. I mean, not to mention, it's just a weird thing if I think about it, because I'm like, I mean, Max, you were getting world titles even though Max was around. Like, Max was just not racing for Red Bull. I think he was in the other Red Bull team, AlphaTauri at the time. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, what do you mean you regret it? Like, what would you have gotten from Max that you just because he's younger and you think you'll have like, instead of, because Max joined at like 17. Are you thinking, oh, I'll have 10 to 20 years with a driver, or 20 years with a driver rather than like the 10 you've had with Lewis? Because it's like, I don't get, what do you regret about it? Because you got your world championships, because Max joined when Lewis was getting those. So I don't get the whole like, oh, it's my biggest regret. Like, who would you have rather had then? Like, I don't understand.
Well, I think that was his point, was that
I don't get, what do you regret? I don't understand. Like, I don't get what you're trying to say by that, because like, what did you miss out on? Because you got the world championships,
but they missed out.
You can't get you can't get two a year. You just get one.
Yeah, but I think he means more that like, I mean, he said like at the time they didn't have a seat for him because they were happy with their driver pairing and they were successful with their driver pairing.
Yeah.
So I don't know that he was saying necessarily like, oh, I wish I didn't have one of these drivers on my roster so I had a spot for Max. I think it was more like maybe the timing of it is what he regrets. That like,
not to mention Max didn't even get a world championship until 2021.
Yes, but now he's like
But also because he is, I mean, I'm not, obviously Max knows how to drive a fucking car and has proven this season, especially, he doesn't have to have the number one car to do well. Now, that being said as well, he had the number one car in the beginning of the year. So a lot of his success came from dominating at the start of the year, and then, everybody else caught up. So, I mean, I don't know if he was if everybody was already caught up and he wasn't in the number one car, I don't know that he would have still been champion, but but he's clearly proven he can still win and do things not in the number one car. But I'm just kind of like, I don't get like, oh, I didn't want to miss out on this opportunity to wait. How many years was he in Formula One? 5 or 6 years before you got a world championship? Yeah. I don't get it just feels like talking to talk.
Yeah.
That's what the statement just feels like, talking to talk. Into basically
saying, I mean, he may have thrown out Max's name when he was making that comment
to get under
just for headlines. Yeah, to piss off Christian. I mean, because he's been.
I think Christian even said, like, you were never gonna get him anyway, dummy.
I think that. We know that Toto's been trolling Christian through the media because he talked a lot this season about like, oh yeah, there's always a seat open at Mercedes for Max, and we're trying to lure him over to our side or whatever. He's been making this sort of statements all season.
That's where I'm like, I feel like sometimes what they say always contradicts each other. Mm-hmm. They contradict themselves often, because I'm like, well, because one, he's saying, oh, I always knew I wanted to sign Kimi, right? But then in an interview not too far away from that, he was like, well, I wish I would have known sooner so I could have approached Charles or Lando, who would have never left their teams. So sometimes I just feel like they talk to talk just to say shit. Because I'm like, your biggest regret, I mean, you're acting like he would have went with you. That's where I'm just like, you're talking to talk. Because you didn't miss out on anything. You have 6 world championships with Lewis. And I'm not saying it's a slight to Lewis that he said that. I just don't understand. What would you have gotten that you already didn't get? Basically, where it's like, it just feels like a statement where when you hear it, you're like, oh, that makes sense. But I'm like, wait a minute. No, it really doesn't.
But does it
It doesn't make any sense.
Listen, I'm just here for Toto calling Christian Horner a terrier.
Well, oh my God.
Yapping. He's yapping.
No. And then Christian's like, well, I'd rather be a terrier than a wolf, bitch. He said, terriers are good dogs. Literally, he was
I have terriers. They're great dogs.
He goes, I love terriers.
Why are you slandering terriers?
He goes, I'd rather be a terrier than a wolf. And I'm like, I love them so much.
I love it. They're the definition of like frenemies, where
they gossip together.
Oh.
You know that if another team principal gives them the ick, those motherfuckers are across the room and they're like,
they're communicating.
We're going to talk about this later.
Mm-hmm. You just know that I think they're so similar in a lot of ways with the loving the media attention. And
they're media sluts.
Oh, for sure.
Both of them.
And loving to poke and prod and like get the upper hand and who can make the slide dig at the other. Like they eat it up. They love it. I think because you've seen when like there's been clips and moments where they interact with each other and they seem kind of buddy and like it's all kind of in good like rivalry fun,
Yeah.
like it's healthy competition, healthy rivalry sort of thing. But then there's other times they talk mad shit about each other in the media. And I'm like, do they ever say this stuff to their faces? Like to each other, like directly?
I don't know.
Or do they just shit talk? And do they shit talk both of them knowing the game that each other is playing?
Yeah.
Like, I know the game I'm playing, I know the game you're playing, I know what this is.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to have a sleepover with them. Who would you pick? If you had to pick one who would be the girly? If they're girly, who do you want to gossip with?
Oh, like a gossip queen? Oh, Christian.
Yeah, Christian all day.
He talks mad shit.
100%.
I feel like Toto would pretend he's above the gossip and it would take too long to like get him comfortable enough to where he would want to start spilling stuff. I feel like Christian out the gate, as soon as you indicate that you want to talk some shit, I feel like Christian would just be like on it.
Say less.
Mm-hmm. He'll spill that tea.
Exactly.
I feel like he would be funny too.
Yeah, no, I think Christian is funny. I've always kind of, I don't know. This was like, if I had to say, because this is like our introductory I don't know how to word. We're back basically. Mm-hmm. We've both dedicated. We're gonna get back to actually doing stuff.
Yes.
There's no reason not to. We put too much time and effort and money into doing all this, and we just need to do it.
Yes.
So that being said, this is like, okay, this is our soft launch.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a yappy episode.
Getting our feet wet.
If it's not your cup of tea, that's fine. We're going to get more back into keeping up with what's going on so we can yap about it.
Yeah.
Always expect Formula One stuff. We won't always make every episode Formula One, but if that's what we want to talk about, that's what we'll talk about.
Yes.
This is what it is.
For those who don't know, the whole concept and the whole
Genesis
origin
story.
The vibe here is that we talk about what we want to talk about, and we invite you to be part of the conversation, to listen in, because one of the things that like I enjoyed the most as a child and still do would be when I would go on like a car ride, like with my parents or like my mom and my aunt or mom and grandma or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting in the back seat quiet and then just listening to them talk about anything and everything. And as long as you don't interject, they kind of forget you're there. And then you just listen and you just absorb the conversation. That's why I love podcasts. And so part of the concept of this is that we're the two yappers in the front seat and you're in the back seat along for the ride. And we invite you to listen in on our conversations
about things that matter and some things that really don't. Most of the time they don't matter.
Yeah. And we just talk this is how we talk here in front of the camera is how we talk in real life. We literally have had phone conversations where one of us will call the other, just talk about one random thing. And the next thing we know, it's been a podcast episode, basically an hour and a half, and we're going in on topics. So what you see is what you get. This is pretty much who we are in real life.
Yeah.
Except I don't look this good all the time.
I do not. I can't even. But so this season with Formula One, just wrapping that, we'll wrap that up and then we'll kind of end it, I guess. Mm-hmm. But we've both established, we've already been kind of into, this is the season we kind of like, we really, really felt like we watched everything. Because before, like, you were doing stuff on social media with it. I wasn't really I was following through Travis at this point. I've had like moments where I'm following it to not at all like
as closely. Like you're just kind of vaguely aware of what's going on, and you get some of the headlines.
Where like I knew about 2021. I mean, I knew when Vettel won, so it's like it's always been in my life at some point. Mm-hmm. But it's like this year was like the year and we didn't even know it.
No,
and so I'm like,
I wasn't even the past couple years, and we talked about this before, but I've followed along on social media. Yeah. I've followed along pretty much since 2020, 2021. Mm-hmm. I think it's 2020 when I kind of started being more aware of it and just keeping up on social media. And it wasn't until this year when you decided to get into it and you're like, we should watch the races, because I just am not, I've never been like one to really watch sports on TV like that. Like I like in-person sporting events, but never really followed stuff like to where I'm like, I got to sit down and watch like a game or something. And then you started doing it and you're like, you should watch along. I paid for F1 TV.
Yeah, well, because I went to Vegas and I guess my phone heard me that I was in Vegas, and Travis was like, I wonder where the paddock is, because the paddock is always there, but the track just isn't. And so we were like, can we go look at it? We couldn't. But I guess my phone heard me and it was just spamming me with F1 content. And I was like,
it could also be that the Las Vegas GP, like that actually puts on the race there, they could have
they hacked me,
set up some to promote just F1 content in general or whatever in that area.
But I don't have my location stuff on, because I always get on purpose. So I'm like, my phone must have just heard me, because I have my location, like my Instagram doesn't know where I am, because I always turn my notification.
Do you ever tag like a place that you were in when you were posting?
No, I don't do that.
Okay.
So I'm like, that, or
it still knows. You can tell it not to track my stuff, but it still tracks.
But so I got the ads. I got back from Vegas, and the next race was going to be Australia. So basically, it was the first race I didn't see. But I didn't even know that. I just was like, what are they doing? And so the next race was Australia, and I had watched that one. I remember we talked about it on the podcast. And then the next race was the one, because there was a sprint race.
Was that China?
I don't remember, because
the first one I watched was China.
Okay, then it was China, because then I watched Japan then too, because it was Australia, Japan, then China.
Yeah, I didn't see Japan. Okay. Yeah, so the first one that I saw was like, you're like, oh, the sprint race. It was, I think there was a sprint race.
It was the sprint race, because I remember I was in my living room, and I think I knew we were both awake for it, and we were already texting, and I was like, do you want to watch the sprint race? Because I literally pay for this and I've been watching. Do you want to watch? And you're like, I've never watched one before. Okay. And then
I was very excited. I was like, okay, cool.
And then
we were off to the races.
That's the end of the story.
Yeah.
That's it. And so I'm just like, it's been fun to have something. I feel like I understand some men better. Like when it comes to being so in on like this is what I do. Like This is what I like. Like I had empathy for a man the other day in Hobby Lobby when his wife was like, can you get off your phone and checking that and this and that? And he goes, I'm trying to check the score. And I was
that was funny.
I was like, leave him alone. He needs it, because that's me. That's literally been me when I've been traveling during like qualifying, and I'm like, shh,
gotta watch, gotta check.
Like, just don't talk to me. I'll be present in a little bit. Just back the fuck off. Like, I get it. I understand, because
this is my me time.
Yeah, this is what I like. Like, life is annoying all the time. You work, you do this, you do that. So if I find something that just brings me joy, let me have it. And now I understand. Mm-hmm. So that's it.
Yeah.
So it's brought me a lot of joy. So now I'm going to be very sad for like 2 months. Yeah. But honestly, I'm just going to throw all my energy into this, I think, for a bit. And then I won't have time to be that sad.
Yeah. The good thing is, though, that it is a very short break for between the beginning and end of season. Like, at least we're not like football fans who it ends, like, if you follow like NFL, it ends in January, February, whenever the Super Bowl is, and then they have half a year basically.
Oh, no, that's hard.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, we get 2.5 months. They'll do because the season ended today at the beginning of December. They get about 2.5 months off before they do testing at the end of February.
Yep. I saw that. Yeah, I was looking at that. I saw when they did that today.
Just under 3 months maybe. And then the season officially starts in the middle of March. Mm-hmm. But before the season officially starts, we will get the next season of Drive to Survive on Netflix.
They don't, at this point, they don't have to edit anything.
No.
Just whatever you film, put it out, because it's already written for you. You don't even need to put together any storylines, babe. You already got it.
You don't have to manufacture drama. There's so much that happened and so many storylines to follow. I'm like, how are they going to do 10 episodes? I just don't. They're going to have to leave so much stuff out if they were to only do 10.
Do me a favor, Drive to Survive. If you're going to make something over dramatic and you're going to make something like I'm trying to really make a point, I need you to make a point about Daniel Ricciardo and how it was wrong. And I need you to just really reignite that fucking fire under everybody, because I need him back here now. It's insane. It's unacceptable. So light that fire. Make that exit so fucking emotional and wrong. That's what because I need
you to include the clips of him in the media pen on his last race when he can't even say that it's his last race and he's like choking up and can barely get the words out and trying not to cry on camera. Like, you better.
Him sitting in the car because he knew, but he couldn't say. I wanted
staying till everyone else has left. After the end of the race to say goodbye.
I want it so dramatic. If there's one thing.
You better have them violins, that music in the background.
I want the flashbacks. I want all of this. I want it to be so dramatic that anybody who watches it is like, give that man a fucking seat, because I need everybody to get mad and loud again about it.
Listen, there's an 11th team that they're in the initial agreements to join Formula One, and a new team to join for 2026.
I know.
Cadillac GM. Please, so there's going to be, and again, it's in the initial, they have a tentative agreement with,
because now they can actually like do it, because at first they're like, no.
Yeah.
And now they're like, them.
So, there's going to be 2 more seats opening up. So who knows?
I know. Who do you think should get those seats, and then we'll end it?
They're, as a new team,
which we've already kind of talked about.
But they don't know.
They don't know.
As a new team, they're going to need experience. They're going to need drivers who have been with other programs for several years.
Yeah, I wouldn't want a young one.
Because they're already going to have so many new people working together as a team.
Yeah.
That they need someone who's going to help give them some direction and some drive in terms of
help me develop this car.
Yeah, and not just the car, but the program as a whole, because the way that you approach like everything in terms of like how the team functions to develop the car, develop the team as a whole, and the way that we work. And work together, and the style that we do things, like you need somebody who has done that with other teams, because they can help guide and develop that development in a way.
Exactly.
So I would say I think probably, if he's not too old by then, Valtteri Bottas, I would say would be a safe bet, because he has worked with Mercedes, he worked with Sauber. He's worked on both ends of the spectrum in terms of teams that do really, really well and were dominant and teams that just sucked really bad. So I would say he would, I think, bring good experience. I feel like he's a very calm, stable level presence. He's not going to be super hot-headed or super like, you know, yelling or jumping down people's throats when they get stuff wrong. You need calm confidence. And I think he has that. Because I don't know that you, in your first year in Formula One, I don't know that you're going to be pushing for wins. I think that shouldn't even be your goal. I don't think. I think your goal in your first year of Formula One as a team should be to not damage the cars and to get through the season and start setting the foundation for what you're going to be. Like I think minimum, I mean, you look at Haas when they joined Formula One, I think we're talking minimum 3 to 4 years before you're really even in a mindset to be competitive or to start trying to compete for things.
So Bottas and who?
What are some options? What are some names?
Okay. Well, I had told you mine.
I like Kevin Magnussen.
I was gonna say my thing. I'm going with Daniel Ricciardo no matter what, just because there'll be a lot of media attention for me. Good press. Somebody who is a likable person. They just even like publicly. He's liked in the public. He's liked on the grid. He's a very good driver.
He'll bring fans to the team because of who he is, because they're fans of him. So yeah, we did talk about that. Yeah, I do think Daniel would be a good choice.
And it would be between Bottas or Kevin or Magnussen. And I think it's like, because Kevin had such a large role in developing Haas. So like
he started with them.
So such a big, when they started. And so, because it's like, well, he was before that, but he just, when Haas came, he was their driver.
He's been with Haas since Haas.
Well, they got rid of him, and then they got him back.
Yes, but he's been with Haas. Haas hasn't been in Formula One that long.
No,
but he was with them from the start. He was out of Formula One for I think 2 years, a year or two.
I think it was. I think it was like a year or something. Anyway, but
Anywho, and then Haas brought him back, and he's been with them the last couple of years. And when they've really this past year have exceeded expectations.
And I think he's had a lot to do with like even doing he's helped develop the car. There's a lot of work that gets done to develop the car off the track. And so I'm like, it would be probably between Kevin Magnussen or Bottas, because I'm like, I know I like Colapinto for a team that already is established, if that's not what I would do. So yeah, I would, if I'm like,
they don't need a young driver. No. They don't need a young buck who's never been in Formula One before. They need, for the first several years, they need people who have experience in Formula One, experience developing a team, can bring that kind of stabilizing presence, can help guide their development. Yeah. So, I mean, I think between Daniel Ricciardo would be good for marketing purposes. If you're trying to, recoup some of that money, because Formula One is a huge investment. So if you're trying to make some money off of merch and media appearances and
getting
all this
a
kind
fan
of stuff.
Base.
Yeah.
And, you'll get such good attention too, because people are so pissed with how he left. So I'm like, man, you'll be like the savior. You will just be adored by anybody at this point who likes Daniel, because they'll just be happy he's back, because they thought he was so wronged.
But I mean, I don't, with the way that Daniel left Formula One, I mean, he said that his original goal when he came back and joined RB was that he wanted to eventually get the Red Bull seat, to be in a dominant top car at the front of the field, like competing for wins. So I don't know if he would necessarily want to come back in a brand new team with knowing that you're not going to be competitive in the first several years. Because he's going to be older by then. It depends really on.
Because of what he wants from it.
Yeah, so. Because all drivers have that sort of competitive mindset and instinct, especially when you first join the sport, I think. But I mean, I do think that everyone gets to a point in their career where, yes, they would like to win, and yes, they have the skill set and they have the ability to win and compete. But they may be okay with not winning, because I think that some people say that, the best, the most dominant people in any field, like especially when it comes to sports, it's not the love of winning, it's the hatred of losing. It's like, I hate losing more than I love winning, and that's why I win so much, because when I lose, fucking hate it. And I hate that more than anything. So I hate losing. And I mean, I think Max is that way to an extent where he's like, yeah, winning is fine. But when he was winning so consistently at, 20 seconds ahead of any other car behind him last year, I think he was kind of bored with it. He was like, I mean, yeah, it's nice to win and you always want to win, but when he doesn't have to work for it, I think he was bored with it. So, but I think when he got to where he wasn't in as competitive a car, wasn't winning so consistently, so dominantly, he had to fight for the wins.
Bro, he flipped out. He didn't love that.
When he was losing, I think when you get in that sort of mindset, it's like, I hate losing more than I love winning. And so, again, I don't know that certain drivers, I think, get to a point in their career where that's not the case anymore. And they're like, it's not about the wins and losses necessarily. It's more about it's helping a team grow and develop. And it's like, I don't need to be competing. I'm okay helping to raise something new.
Well, and I think too, a lot of people look at the future. So if you're looking for immediate, getting the Red Bull seat would be the immediate dream, right? Like, but if your goal is like, I just don't think I ever got to showcase my strongest self. Like, I look at Alonso and I'm like, Alonso is playing the long game because Aston Martin in the next 2 years is going to be that bitch. Mark my fucking words. That's what's going to happen. So many people have left Red Bull to join that team. That's going to be the team. And and Alonso's already there helping develop it. He's been doing it. So I'm like, if in that Carlos Sainz is the same, because I think Williams and these new regulations, watch the fuck out. And I'm like, what kind of game are you playing? If you want the immediate success, then sure. But if you wanted the immediate success because you're like, I feel like I never got, like Daniel. That's what he had said, right? But now that he didn't get it, and in a way he was kind of wrong, it was kind of ridiculous. It's like, does it have to be with Red Bull, or do you just feel this like loyalty to them because you were a part of the Red Bull Academy, and then you're like, oh, well, I left, and you think it fucked up your, whatever your opinion is on that. But it's like, if you were offered that seat and you could see the future, this is how we want to develop, this is how we want to do this, these are the people we're bringing in, because I'm assuming you're going to bring in past people that have developed teams, so it's kind of like, that'll probably be what really like what's your goal now?
Yeah, because it's kind of like you tried the route of the immediate success and then immediately competing for wins.
And getting back in, because he was gone and Christian brought him back. So that was like, at first it was like, okay, this is the path I'm going to be on to get back to where I was so I can, because I fucked myself by leaving basically the first time.
And Daniel's a team hopper. It's like every 2 years.
Well, he didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Well, see, he left Red Bull where he was secure for a little bit. And he's never had that security since. So it's like, if Daniel could get on a team.
But my point in saying that though, real quick, was that I feel like he left Red Bull because he feel like, for whatever reason, but every other move he's made, I think he thought he was going to a team that was going to be better, that was going to be stronger, more competitive, and going to help him be able to compete at the front. And it just, for whatever reason, the timing of when he made these moves since he left Red Bull, I think his timing has been awful.
Yeah, and the teams he joins, they're not where he thinks they're going to be or where they should be.
And they go in the wrong direction. And, so he's tried that method of like, I'm going to go after, the path that I think is going to get me to the top the quickest. And he's tried that and it didn't work.
I'm like, bro,
it wasn't meant to be.
If you got the chance to get back in that car, and develop something. I mean, because that's what Lewis did with Mercedes. They didn't, it wasn't overnight. I mean,
people talk so much shit about when he joined Mercedes because they were not what they are now.
No, listen, Niki Lauda got him and he's like, listen, this is what you need to do. But anyway, we got to end it because we literally have the transfer footage. So thank you guys. This was our soft launch episode
of season 4 2.0.
Season 4 2.0, whatever. So, yeah, we'll talk at you next time. Bye.
Bye.